I think it's pretty safe to say that as moms, one of the most challenging subjects to photograph are toddlers. No explanation required. Luckily for you, I have a toddler at home with me, so in today's video, we're going to be going over the exact camera settings needed to take sharp photos of your toddler every time. I'm also going to go over some of my best tips and tricks for capturing genuine smiles without the toddler grimace that comes from the say cheese prompt. We'll go over these settings on an older DSLR model, a newer mirrorless camera body, and then also a phone. So if you photograph your children using any of these devices, stick around. We're gonna go ahead and jump right into the settings. So the first setting I wanna cover is universal, no matter what camera body you're using, what brand you're using, doesn't matter. When I see blurry toddler photos, or if you feel like you've gotten a bad toddler photo, one of the issues could possibly be that your shutter speed is too slow. So toddlers are notoriously unpredictable. We don't know what they're gonna say, what they're gonna do, or where they're gonna go at any point in time. So when you're photographing toddlers, it's really important that you're using a fast enough shutter speed. And when we're talking about shutter speed, we're talking about one of the 3 exposure triangle settings that controls how much light is entering your lens. So with toddlers, if we're looking at a walking toddler, I really recommend you use a shutter speed of at least 1/500. I say that because toddlers don't always stay walking. Again, you don't know what they're going to do next. So it's very important that you're using a shutter speed that's going to be fast enough to capture whatever erratic movement they're about to do, okay?
I'm going in water.
No, don't go in the water.
We don't jump in it.
No, don't jump in the water. Now, if your toddler is like mine, who calls himself Fast Boy, then you may want to bump that up, okay? So the more movement that you're predicting is going to happen, the faster your shutter speed probably needs to go to get a sharp photo. The problem is you're going to need more light available to use a faster shutter speed, so you have to adjust your other exposure triangle settings and or find more light. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember that if you feel like your toddler photos are blurry, you probably need to increase your shutter speed and make it faster. Remember that shutter speed is fractions of a second typically, and we want a faster fraction to let our camera blink faster. Now let's go ahead and talk about autofocus. So what autofocus capabilities your camera has is going to be extremely dependent on the brand, the model, how old it is, okay? So let's look first at a DSLR camera and also at sort of the basic autofocus setting that you can adjust on every camera. So the autofocus mode that I want you to look for is on a Canon AI Servo, on Nikon and Sony, and I think even Fujifilm, you're going to be looking for AFC, or what essentially is a continuous autofocus mode. And what that means is your camera is going to be continuously refocusing on the subject that's moving in your frame. If you leave it on something like one shot, that's only going to focus once and then stop focusing, okay? That does not work for toddlers. Toddlers don't stop moving. They keep moving. So we need a focusing method or mode that's going to track the movement and follow it and continuously focus on the movement. Now, on older cameras, probably the only other thing you're going to be able to adjust is the autofocus area mode. And so that's where you're going to be telling your camera where you want it to look for that movement. For this scenario where we're working with toddlers who are fast moving, moms who are probably also just now learning how to use their exposure settings, and then we're trying to keep the attention of a toddler, I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and use a pretty open autofocus area mode. So give your camera a little bit more creative control than you normally would. Give up some of that focusing control. And trust that your camera is going to be able to follow movement better if it has more space to look for. So if you use a single autofocus area mode point, for example, and tell it, oh, you can only look right here for movement to focus on, it's going to have a really hard time focusing because it can only look in this one little spot you told it to. Whereas if you open it up to the full screen, or at least a third of the screen, or a third of your autofocusing points rather, then it's going to have more ability to look for something to focus on when it's in that AI Servo or continuous autofocus mode. So it is a trade-off because you're giving up some of that control again by saying, hey, I'm trusting you to look in this whole area right here for something that's moving to focus on and continuously refocus on it. But if it's an older camera, it's probably going to be your best bet, on top of having to deal with trying to keep a toddler engaged and monitor your exposure settings to getting that sharp photo that you're looking for. Now, if you're using a mirrorless camera, you have so many more settings to look at and a lot of different options. I don't think there's a necessarily best option. It's very personal preference here. I'm sure I'll have people in the comments that have other ideas on different settings you can use for the sharpest possible image, but this is what I'm going to suggest to you. Okay, we are looking at a Canon R6 Mark II under the autofocus tab. So if you've got a Nikon or Sony, your menu is going to be different, but it's gonna have really similar features to what I'm talking about because the mirrorless technology is has really come a long way. So the first thing is the autofocus mode. We've already talked about. We're going to be using Servo so that it tracks movement. If you look down, this is the autofocus area mode, which we also already talked about. And I told you if you're using an older model, look for a larger area so it has more room to track, so you're not having to move your toggle around. However, on my mirrorless camera, I do actually like to use a smaller autofocus area point so that I can tell it where I want it to start looking for an eye. Because on mirrorless cameras, we have something called eye detection. So you can turn on eye detection, and I have found that it works fabulously so far. You can tell if you want it to look for a right or left eye. I think auto is great. And then you're gonna also be able to tell it what subject you want it to prioritize detecting and looking on the eyeballs for, essentially. So obviously I have people selected. This is a video about toddlers. Animals is another option if I was taking pictures of my dog, but if I'm taking a photo where my kids and my dog are in the photo, hopefully my dog's not listening, but at the end of the day, I want my kids in focus, okay? Even though I love my dog. Now, if you don't want to have to decide what subject your camera is focusing on by moving your toggle or tapping the screen to tell it what points on the autofocus area map that you want it to choose from, then one thing you can turn on is this whole area tracking. And what that is essentially gonna do is your camera will find the subject, find the eyes all on its own. Once it finds something that it thinks is what you want, it's gonna go ahead and lock on, and it will stay focused on that until that subject leaves the screen or you override it with your autofocus area points. I don't have that turned on because I've just found that it gives it a little bit too much control, and I do have 2 kids and a dog, so there are times when I'm trying to be the decision maker on what person I want it to start looking on eyeballs for. But if you're a beginner and or this is getting overwhelming, I would suggest turning that on while you get used to all of the different settings. Okay, so then if we scroll over to on page 4 of this menu, you're gonna see something that says limit subject to detect. We're gonna open that and you'll see that I only have people and animals checked as an option for my camera for something to look for to focus on. I don't need vehicles. I'm never taking pictures of cars. If you take pictures of cars, this is probably not the channel for you. I'm primarily doing people and animals, so this is what I currently have selected. That is why on this screen, you'll see that when I go to subject to detect, I can't even select vehicles or none. They're grayed out, and that's because on that other page, I have it narrowed down essentially. Then there's some other things you can or cannot turn on. This is all really personal preference. A lot of people like to use back button focus and have a button on the back of your camera set to engage the focusing and then lock onto a subject. Some people really like on the newer mirrorless bodies, the touch and drag focus feature. I don't use it because I like to just use the toggle. I don't mind using that. I switch back and forth between a DSLR and this camera, so I don't really want to get addicted to the touch and drag, but that is an option as well that a lot of people do really like. But these settings that I've showed you are gonna give you a great chance at having the sharpest photos possible. Also tied to that focal point is going to be your aperture setting. So the narrower your aperture, the deeper your depth of field, the better chance that you're gonna have of getting something in your focal plane. However, most people don't want a deep depth of field when they're taking a photo of a person. With a portrait, you typically want that like creamy bokeh background. For this lesson, we're not gonna go deep dive into that, okay? Now, another setting I almost forgot to mention is your drive mode. And so here you're gonna tell your camera how many images it's allowed to take every time you release the shutter. So it can be helpful to have low speed or high speed continuous selected. That way, when you're pressing the shutter, you can hold it down and take more than one photo at a time. I prefer low speed just to cut down on the amount of images that I take, but high speed will fire out a bunch if you need it to. Now, if you're photographing a toddler on a phone, we obviously don't have as much creative control on our phones on any of the autofocus settings or the shutter speed. But what you can change is the type of photo you're taking. So for example, you can use the standard camera mode, or your phone probably has portrait mode, or your phone may have the live photo mode. I don't recommend using portrait mode with toddlers. And that is because portrait mode is just an exposure simulation. So it's simulating a shallow depth of field or a wide aperture. And so all that extra processing time happening in the background can sometimes make you miss the moment. My phone camera is a little bit old. So often when I'm using portrait mode, I'll even get like a little wheel spinning after each time I press the shutter in portrait mode because it has to think and develop the photo with that simulation on top of it, okay? So that's not the best way to get a sharp photo of a toddler on your phone. But what you can use is the live photo function, because what that does is capture, I believe it's about a second and a half of information before and after you press the shutter. And then you can go into your Photos app and edit the photo and select the keyframe that you think is best or sharpest or captures the most authentic smile. But it's great to not have to, because you can't prioritize the faster shutter speed or the autofocus mode that you want to use on a phone, it's nice to at least be able to capture that live footage and then select, okay, what do I need out of this little snippet of essentially video footage that your phone has captured. Now, the camera settings are important, but in my opinion, an even more important part of taking toddler photos is the prompting, okay? So I totally get that as moms, all we want is a nice photo of our kids. Motherhood is so fleeting. Their time as little people is so short and adorable and fun and chaotic. It's the most beautiful, but also the saddest thing you'll ever encounter. So I understand just wanting to have a nice photo of your kids smiling. However, I would encourage you when you're going into, anytime you're about to take a photo of your toddler, go into it with a light heart. Don't have too many expectations for what you're going to capture, and then use the resources in your back pocket as best as you can to engage your toddler in the photo taking. So instead of just saying, say cheese, you're going to drop down to their eye level. You're going to get invested in what they're doing. Maybe you're going to play a game. There's a lot of fun things you can do to capture their attention and get them kind of engaged with you and the camera that makes photography feel fun for them and not like a chore that's just interrupting the important work that they're doing playing. And honestly, the crazier you get, the better, okay? So my toddler is currently, for example, in his booger phase, knows all about boogers. We talk about boogers all the time, where to put boogers, all those fun things. He also knows what a toot is. So you can have your camera toot to capture attention. You can ask your toddler to look for the booger in your camera. The sillier you are, the more engaged they're going to be, okay? Just like in real life. Sometimes I pretend there's like an animal or an insect in my camera and I'm making the sound of that animal and telling them, you know, if you can look in the camera and smile, then sometimes you'll hear the animal make a sound. You have to look really closely, see what you see, and then you can kind of wait and then surprise them with the sound and startle them and get a little giggle that way. I used to be able to do bugs, but my toddler got stung by a bee in the ear at a football game, so bugs are currently off limits. But you can try that. You can buzz like a bee. I like to have a cat that lives in my camera that sometimes will meow when you're looking at her. So all kinds of silly things you can play. As far as games go, one of my favorite games to play when I'm photographing with my kids is Simon Says. Now, the younger the toddler, they're not really going to understand the Simon Says versus the non-Simon Says portion of that prompt. But 3- and 4-year-olds can totally pick up on Simon Says, and it keeps them really engaged, keeps them focused on you and what you're saying because they want to do the right motion or movement. You can have them pat their head, twirl around, jump up and down. The other game I like to play is red light, green light, and you can also introduce hand motions for that. So, you know, go, stop. Really fun if you have siblings that can hold hands and run towards you while they're playing red light, green light. That's a great game. But overall, the lesson here is that we should not be expecting our toddlers to just sit and smile for a photo. It's not a realistic expectation. Maybe once in a blue moon, you'll get a great photo like that, but it's pretty rare. To me, using my camera as an opportunity for connection, it's a touch point for connection. Use it to engage, give your toddler some undivided attention, make it fun for them, and you're gonna have much better results. The other thing you can do if you are trying to get that like perfect posed photo is if you can set them on a stool or a chair where their feet are just barely off the ground, that will buy you like an extra millisecond of time to capture the photo, okay? Because they can't run away quite as fast if they're sitting on the chair. They will still get down and run, so you have to be kind of quick. Another layer you can add to that is having your camera on a tripod, like ready to go before you place them. You can literally even have your finger like ready to press the shutter when you're about to place them in the chair. That might get you some time, but for the most part, good luck if that is the photo that you're trying to take. Now, if you're trying to take a photo of you with your toddler in the frame, so let's say you're giving your camera to your significant other and you want a photo with your toddler, my 2 best hacks for that are, first of all, you're going to jump up and down. And when I say jump up and down, I don't mean like my volleyball jump up and down. I'm talking about just like a gentle hop. Sometimes your feet don't even have to leave the ground, but enough of that motion, that surprising motion, is first of all going to get them closer to you. They're going to like sort of cuddle up with you because they don't want you to drop them. But also it's probably going to make them giggle. You can jump higher and higher to get more laughs if you want. But the key there is to either be engaged with them while you're jumping for a nice photo, or you be looking at the camera while you're jumping, which sounds silly, but whatever. The other thing you can do, which I love to do, is to run in and out of the frame with them. So keep them on your hip, just like you would if you were jumping with them. And you're gonna run out and then you're gonna run in and freeze, okay? And look at the camera and smile, or look at them and smile. That's another option that you can try if you're trying to get a photo with your toddler. Hopefully, at least one or more of these tips and camera settings will help you capture some beautiful memories with your family. If you've got any other great prompts or camera setting tips that you wanna share, drop them in the comments below. I'm sure that all of us would love to hear them. If you're looking for more resources to learn more photography, you can like and subscribe to this channel, or you can drop down to the description of this video and find a bunch of resources resources like our free Pretty Phone Photos Guide, our online photography course that's developed just for moms, or our blog. So have a look-see in that description and see what interests you today, and good luck taking photos of your toddlers.